Kate, it's great to have a chance to speak to you. Before we dive into your world of books, can you share with us a bit about your background and how your love of literature began to blossom?
So how did my love of literature begin to blossom and the background behind it? I've always read all my life, even when I was a small girl. As soon as I could read by myself, I did, and I wanted to. And it was something I could bury myself in and take me on a journey into a different world. I started off with Mallory Towers, and consequently I wanted to go to boarding school, which never happened, sadly. But throughout my life, I've found solace in my literature, and I've obviously expanded my reading over that time. I do have ADHD, which is unusual for a reader, but for me, it's my hyperfocus. So how do I select my books, and what criteria do I use to evaluate them? The only thing that I use is my own emotion. So if I'm in a bookshop, I will read the blurb of the back of the book, and if I fancy it, I'll buy it. I might not read it straight away because I might buy 6 books, but there'll come a point when I'm in the mood to read it. So there is no rhyme or reason. It's totally random. I pick anything that I think would stimulate me and take me on that journey into a different world. So it's either got to be a good story, or the characters have got to have a good story, one or the other. The characters have got to draw you into their world, or the story has to draw you into their world. If neither of those things happen, then to me that's not a good story. How has my ADHD influenced my approach to reading and reviewing books? I think this is a massive benefit, is that I am not drawn into one genre. I think it's really helped me expand my reading across all different authors, all different subjects, all different genres. So in actual fact, I think the fact that I like quite a lot of quirky difference, or quite a lot of difference, means it means that I read a wide range of literature.
Can you share any strategies or techniques that you've learned to help manage your ADHD symptoms whilst engaging with literature?
That's a difficult one for me to answer on a general level, because I've always read. So it's always about transportation into a different world or a different life. So it's never been a struggle. What I would say was, the harder the book, you need to slow your reading down. So at the moment, I'm reading Charles Dickens' Tale of Two Cities, and I know I have to take my time and read it slowly, because otherwise I miss half the story, because I do read fast and I do jump around the page. So, as I said, there's no specific adaptation I make, except when it's a harder to read book, I tend to slow down. There are some books which are really great for ADHD. They tend to be quirky, comical. For example, Bob Mortimer's The Satsuma Complex is quirky, it's different, it's off the wall. It's great for ADHD because there's quite a lot of humour in it, and it keeps you laughing and engaged. So that's a great book. And another author is Terry Pratchett, and here's a summation of his characters, but I've read all of the Discworld series, and again, it's that comedy, that quirkiness of characters that make it really interesting and engaging for somebody like me with ADHD. I think the advantage of ADHD is I've learned which books are badly written, and I realise within the first couple of chapters, and I won't read it anymore if I feel it's a badly written book, and there are some out there, unfortunately. One place I do read where there's no distractions is in bed at night before I go to sleep. It's a habit of mine, and I know there's going to be no distractions. Other times there is lots of distractions. Television might be on, or dinner might need to be made, or whatever the distraction is, or I need to go to the gym. So yeah, there are plenty of distractions that take me out. So reading before bed is really important. And the other one is reading on holiday, where I can lie on a sun lounger in the shade with a cocktail in my hand. That to me is bliss when I'm reading.
If you could make a book-themed cocktail, what would it be?
That's a good question. My own personal cocktail would be something fruity but with a little bit of sour in it and vodka based. So probably vodka, an Absolute vodka or a Grey Goose with some raspberry liqueur in it, topped up with something like fizzy or sour, slightly fizzy sour, and some lime as well. That would be my ideal drinking cocktail, something like that.
Are there any aspects of book reviewing that you find uniquely suited to your ADHD tendencies? So whether that's in terms of creativity, adaptability, or hyperfocus?
I struggle to write it. This is where my ADHD becomes a struggle. I struggle to write the reviews. But once I start, I can hyperfocus, and I find that when I'm in that hyperfocus moment, it flows and the words flow and it all makes sense, and I make very few mistakes because I'm in that hyperfocus moment.
So can you recall any particularly challenging reviews that you've had to write, and so how did you approach that?
One of the books I've recently reviewed, which is Babel, I really struggled to write that review because I don't want to be negative, but for me with ADHD, I found it quite clumsy and immature, and that's when I struggle, when I don't particularly like something. I don't like the way it's written. The story was great and the premise was great, but the way it was written, I struggled with. My ideal reading nook in the winter would be sat by an open fire or log burning stove in a really comfy chair, low lighting, a nice whiskey on ice or a nice coffee, and just sit there reading. I think in the summer I go back to my sun lounger and the cocktail. That would be my ideal reading place when it's nice and warm.
If you could live inside the world of any book you've reviewed, which one would it be and why?
It'd have to be the Discworld series. It's just so fascinating because it's a reflection of society, even though it's fantasy. The actual characters and their stories are based on a reflection of what's going on in society at certain points in time. And to go into that and be amongst that would be fantastic.
Can you share with us a book that made you laugh out loud unexpectedly?
That's a hard one because I laugh out loud quite a few times. But again, this is one I've read recently, so I have to say this. When he starts talking to the squirrel, that is funny. That is really, really genius bit of writing there, and it did make me laugh. That's a difficult one because I think a lot of books make me laugh out loud.
If you could have any fictional character from a book you've reviewed as a personal mentor, who would it be?
Oh, the patrician from the Discworld. He is a benevolent dictator. And it's something that is just so calm and so cool, and he makes decisions which, if you don't follow it, you're not going to last much longer, but he commands respect, but he lets life carry on and he lets people do what they want with an enormous amount of freedom. So I would love him to mentor me in a world like that.
If you could swap lives with a protagonist from any book just for a day, who would you choose on?
I would say Atticus Finch from The Mockingbird. He's a great character. He knows what's right. He tries to be the best dad he can. It's just such a... He's a flawed human being trying to do the right thing by everybody.
So what role do you think book reviews play in shaping readers' decisions and the literary landscape?
I think book reviews are great when you don't know what you want to read, but you know what you like, because there's so many books out there that it's really difficult to make a choice. I think my book reviews, because I'm so widely read and I'm not a literary snob, there's plenty to choose. There will be plenty to choose from over all my book reviews going forward.
If you could time travel to any literary era as a fly on the wall, which one would you choose?
Now, because we have the history of all the books, you know, we have the Shakespeare's and the Chaucer's and we have Homer, and we have Jane Austen, and we have the Brontes and Charles Dickens, etc., etc., etc. And they tell us so much about history and about our literary history as well. But I think we're very fortunate now to have all of that, plus everything that's happened since we've all been alive. So I'd say no.
If you could transport yourself into the plot of a book you've reviewed and alter the ending, which book would you choose and how would you change it?
The Nightingale is a fantastic story about two sisters, two women, who follow their own paths during the Second World War, and in their own ways they're both heroes. I wish I could have changed the ending of one of the sisters, because it's rather sad at the end, and I was sad when that happened. I wish it hadn't. So that's the one I would change.
In the age of digital media and online reviews, what do you think sets your approach of book reviewing apart?
Me, of course. I mean, really, I should be on television. I would be fantastic at presenting book reviews on the telly. I'm quirky, I'm different, I do go outside, I do reviews, I'm not boring in any way, shape or form. I'm exciting, I get excited about my books, and I make lots of mistakes and I don't really care. Anyway, that's why. Watch me.